carrier, which in the higher tiers you do, that'll help get you smacking the crap out of people. Like, you wouldn't believe it how much increased 10% is, especially with a reload and increased damage. So not only does he do what Alan McMillan does, he also does what another battleship captain does that reduces your reload time of your weapons. Now, moving on to Forthright. Grants a 5% chance to increase steering performance by 15 and increase scouting range by 500 for allies within 800 meters when ship speed is over 30 knots. This thing just proxies all the time. It just does its thing and you let it go. Because it's such a low percent chance, it doesn't really happen. But it's cool because if you're moving in a fleet, it helps. It's a proxy, yeah. Enhanced Disguise 2 increases disguise by 2%, so your ship is harder to see at range. If you're sitting still and have paint, it helps significantly, especially if you're a carrier. The last thing you want to be seen is lit up. You'd rather that battleship to your left get lit up who can take a salvo versus you. Now, this is where it gets fun. Oriental Blitzkrieg. I love the name of it. It just cracks me up so greatly. It's marvelous. When assigned as an aircraft carrier captain, now this is captain, increases the speed of all types of shipboard aircraft by 5% and decreases flight deck reload time by 8%. That takes away 2 commanders out of the other commanders that I've already talked about that I had on my ship and puts it into 1. Not to mention that we have Admiral's Chosen on top of that, which reduces flight deck reload time by 15%. So you're talking 23% greater flight deck reload time. Flight deck reload time, 30%. 25 on the Q. Now, he increases dive bomber accuracy by 10%. Like I said, I'm working on trying to figure out a way to make dive bombers a little more versatile in this game and better at what they do. I have to play some pub servers and cry a lot about, doing that. But, as I said, a very, very well-rounded and very good commander to have for a carrier, especially in the higher tiers where you have weaponry. Especially if you have, let's say, the Yorktown, I believe it is in the American column, you have Hawkeye mode. You basically have main artillery on your ship. It's phenomenal. So scooting over here, everybody's favorite, Chester Nimitz. Now, Chester is my alternate to Yamamoto here. Simply because of fleet battles, I'm often carrying my carrier in the fleet, and he increases your AA gun and MG for you and your allies within 1.5 clicks by 15% and increases sonar detection by 0.5 seconds for 45 seconds. In larger fleet battles, not necessarily junior, in junior, not novice, junior and senior, you're often traveling in a fleet and there's a lot of carriers and a lot of planes floating around. So when allies who are within 1.5 clicks of you can now automatically get an AA and MG stat pad for 45 seconds of 15% damage, you're going to tear a lot of planes apart. Your fleet is just literally going to rip their planes apart and there's nothing they can do about it. And why is that important, you ask? Because it keeps spotters off of you and it keeps torpedo bombers torn to shreds. Not being seen and not being torped are 2 huge things battleships love. Being silent and not sunk. Now, his other ability is an ability not many people look at. It's called After Strike. What After Strike does is it reduces all reload times by 10% for 45 seconds when the battle reaches 6 minutes and every 3 minutes after that. Now, everybody needs to read that. All reload times. So that's main gun, second gun, AA, depth charge, airplanes, ejector, torpedoes. Everything that has a reload time, everything, is now 10% faster every time you hit the clock. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're getting into matches, that 10% can save you at those points. Next, he has Ground Service Training 2, which increases the carrier, deck, and hydroplane preparation by 3%, which is actually really good. You couple that with, let's say, another captain that has 3% as well, you're at 6% reload speed, which is, phenomenal. You have Soul of the Fleet, increases maximum durability by 10% when assigned as captain. Being able to take a hit, a lot of hits, especially little hits, and negate them is great. Soul of the Fleet is really good. Now, General Nimitz Inspiration increases your speed by 2 knots when assigned as captain. So you've got 2 captain abilities outside of the captain ability. So, one other thing I was explaining to somebody that was great about Nimitz is he doesn't necessarily have to be the carrier. he can be a battleship that is heart to the soul of the fleet. Because a battleship that has more durability in its MM protection can use a greater ability of that 10%. I.e. taking a battleship that has, let's say, 180 millimeter protection versus the carrier's 46. That 10% is going to be greater on that higher number than its lower number, meaning the higher ship is obviously inherently going to take more damage than the lower one. So, that can help a lot. That's why I said he's kind of an alternate with Yamamoto for a carrier captain. I personally historically love Nimitz. He was a great tactician, but as you can see, he can float that line of battleship and carrier depending on how your fleet goes. After that, we have... Oh, no, here he is. Chichiri Nagumo. Chiuchi Nagumo. God, I love butchering these names. I haven't spoken Japanese forever. Back. Yes. He has emergency dispatch, just like Raymond Spurs. He has home run, which is really cool because it's a torpedo proxy. Grants a 10% chance to increase aircraft speed by 8% when an enemy has been hit by dive bombers or torpedo bombers. Bam! 10% chance. It proxies all the time. You just keep using it. Circle Training 2 increases the steering performance of all types of shipboard aircraft by 2%, and Enhanced Armor 3 increases the durability of all shipboard aircraft by 3%. That's what you're looking for. When it can increase the durability of shipboard aircraft, not just increases the durability, you want to see that specific phrase by 3%. A lot of people go, oh, what's 3%? I'm like, for an airplane, that's a lot. A lot of durability is amazing. And then you have increased deck armor by 5%. That's nice. It stops pop cap destroyers from killing you just as quick, but for the most part, not much is going to be gained there. So that's really the run of the commanders for aircraft carriers. You don't see too many, but there are a lot up here in the Tier 4. Like I said, you've got Raymond Spurance, John Clarkston, Yamamoto Yurisoko, Chester Nimitz, and Chichiri Nagumo. You know, they're really the only ones up top, which you can specifically choose. And like I said, if you had a choice, I would definitely run Yamamoto Yurisoko for your carrier. So saving up those qualification points is a wonderful thing to pick him up because it's 2,500. But let me point it out to you. If you look at from 2-star to 3-star is 300. 3-star to 4-star is 1,000. So that's 1,300. That's more than half of what 2,500 is. You know. So remember leveling up. Also, one thing to denote for carriers, pulling up Chester here. If you look at his legendary before he had not elite CV captain but the ground service training for 3%, if you get him to legendary, he takes Mark Mitchell's captain ability. Decrease flight deck reload time by 10%. Now, 10%, 20%. So that's why I said if you can grind to get him to legendary, you can. But for those of you wondering how much it costs to get a 4-star up there, I'm going to show you Alan's. It is the same cost as buying a 4-star outright to get a 4-star to legendary. Just so people have an idea. So those are the captains. As it sits right now, those are the ones I run because those are what I have. Chirichi, like I said, is my floater. You know, depending on if I'm, like, for example, in the pub, which is where we're going here in a second, I'll throw Chirichi on there just because I'm leveling him up slowly but surely. One cool thing, if you get him to legendary, circle training, it increases maneuverability, performance, and flying speed by 3%. Way better than anything else, honestly. Something to go on here is if you do Arnold Shelby, his legendary turns to Hawkeye. So circle training turns to Hawkeye. Matsudo, it's fuel efficiency 2, Immelman turn. My problem with that is you lose a great ability for a less awesome ability. And then you have my other 2-star, where are you? James. Here we go. James, where are you, James? Come back here, James. You put James at legendary, you see he changes circle training from 2 to which 5% is more significant than, for example, upgrading the other guy. So he would be a far better way to do that. But we'll go ahead and load up into a pub, and I'll show you the basics of flying. And this is the thing, late night, you get a lot of people in K. I'm one of 2 carriers in all the tiers, so we'll see what's happening. Oh, here, let's check the window. You know, let people know that I'm running a carrier in T4. Let's see if I get pulled on a match. I have a bad feeling I might get a
User joined your
tier
channel.
5.
Hello.
Hey Zilla, I'm doing a aircraft carrier tutorial right now, so you just got on it and said hello to everybody, so awesome.
Oh, well, tell them why I said hello again then, now that I know I did.
They can hear you. Anyways, Zilla, I'll be done with this in a minute, and I'm going to post it up for people to see aircraft carrier tutorial and explanation.
Yeah, that's good because I just got one.
What one did you get?
Well, I started off with the Rogue gear,
Bogue.
but I have the Independence now.
Okay, I'm going into Tier 4 CV right now in the Independence.
Cool.
But there's no other aircraft carriers in here, so I'm not going to probably be able to do this tonight, so I'm probably just going to leave this as a verbal tutorial and have to pick it up later. So thus concludes my aircraft carrier tutorial for now. I'll try and get a tutorial running of us in-game, something that takes a little less time. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.